Coming up on Aging Matters Caregiving.
Since Linda had her stroke, I as a caregiver have been able to just do what she's not able to do.
He's a wonderful caregiver. I couldn't ask for a better one. Are you blushing yet?
Yeah.
Sometimes people may not understand that you have a parent to take care of, or just like, picking up your child from daycare. It's pretty much the same thing.
I knew that we were one fall away from her whole life changing. And when she said, I want to stay in my home, then the only way that that could happen is for us to be proactive in this moment.
Part of the American mythos is that at some point you become dependent. And at that point, you have a single caregiver who gives up everything. That is madness.
On the other hand, that's what, for better or for worse, means, is that you care when the worst comes.
Major funding for NPT Report's Aging Matters is provided by Cigna Health Spring, lead sponsor of NPT Report's Aging Matters. The West End Home Foundation, support in the care of seniors through many organizations in Middle Tennessee. The Jeanette Travis Foundation, dedicated to improving the health and well-being of the Middle Tennessee community. Additional funding provided by members of NPT. Thank you.
It's been said there are 4 kinds of people in the world. Those who have been caregivers, those who are caregivers now, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers. I'm Kathy Matea. My brothers and I have faced the challenge of providing care for our parents. In 2000, my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and 6 weeks later, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. We learned how vitally important caregivers are in this situation. They not only cared for our parents, they taught us what to expect. They walked us through the process, and they became family. They were our angels. Like me, many people may not be prepared for this balancing act. They wind up juggling the needs of elder care with careers, marriage, parenthood, and their own health and well-being. Are you prepared to care? Do you know where to turn for help as a caregiver? Can your family afford the costs of long-term care? And what's the plan for your own needs as you age? Join me in exploring these issues on Aging Matters Caregiving.
You put your tennis shoes on. We get up about 6 o'clock, 6:30. I get dressed and then get her out of the bed, get her cleaned up, changed. We'll drink some juice and then we're gonna leave, okay? If we have time, I'll fix some breakfast. I'm gonna get you some peaches, okay? It really didn't become apparent until about 7 or 8 years ago that there was an issue. We also noticed that when she said she had eaten and she hadn't eaten, she would try to cook and there was a pot that was left, on the stove that had caught fire.
83-year-old Ruby Brown began showing signs of dementia about 7 years ago, propelling her daughter, Gail, into the role of caregiver.
She didn't fight me on it. She's like, if I can't stay here anymore, this is when she could speak some, I will, go home with you. And I said, well, Mom, this will be the last day you're staying in your home by yourself.
Gail Brown Ligon is part of a fast-growing demographic in the U.S. Women around age 50 who are married, have careers, and are the primary caregiver of an elderly relative.
Come on, girl.
43.5 million adults in the U.S. provide unpaid care to someone over age 50. 7 out of 10 are women, putting in about 20 hours a week of elder care. Many are not prepared for this role, caught by surprise. Ligon suddenly found herself juggling her mother's care with her own family life and work in the mortgage loan business.
Initially, I thought I would try to be discreet and not include my offices in taking care of my mom, but then it got to the point where my appointments were running into having to pick her up from daycare, and I started kind of losing a little business. All right, baby, see you later. Mwah.
She also found herself at odds with her siblings, all of whom lived out of town at the time.
When I would bring certain things to my siblings' attention, I'd get a little resistance. What do you mean this happened to her? And how could you let that happen? I mean, so I had to kind of hear a whole bunch of stuff in this ear, but yet, okay, I'm the only one here, so I'm seeing and doing on a regular basis.
I guess we was blind to the fact that we didn't want to acknowledge that our mother was going through things because she's always been strong. We've never really seen her sick. She was our superwoman, and superwoman don't get sick. So it was hard. It was a hard pill to swallow. And I had to actually apologize to my sister. You know, our conversations were nice. They weren't. They was ugly. They was borderline. I was disrespectful. And my mama didn't raise me like that. So I had to stop, catch myself, wait a couple of days, calm down. Gail, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't mean to say what I said.
Many siblings didn't get along ever. They're not going to agree on how to take care of their mom or dad. They have different perspectives. They're in different financial situations. You often have several siblings in town and one out of town. And the one out of town is just not seeing the day-to-day aspects, the work that goes into it, the real depression of seeing your loved one decline. So their concept of what should be done is often quite different.
Oh, this is God's country.
Even when a caregiving plan is going well, unexpected change can tip the balance.
Stuff we're going to have to do different. This is our first summer without him.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Mary Ann Scales was managing fine after a debilitating stroke 2 years ago with the help of her husband. But in 2013, Alfred Scales died of kidney failure, and the family had a harsh reality check.
The support that was around her with my dad not being there all the time, that's what changed. Without him there, I wasn't comfortable, I wasn't sleeping. And so I said to Mom, I said, we've got to talk now about what you want long term. And I said, that is either to stay in your home, and if that happens, we're going to have to make changes.
Hello, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Big things happening down there.
A lot of times what happens when a primary caregiver dies is the family begins to notice things they hadn't seen before because the other person compensated for it. And depression babies are taught that you make do with what you have. You don't get new. And so that mindset is very kind of difficult to overcome sometimes. That's why people wait. We'll just wait and see. Well, then what happens is there's some kind of event, whether they have a surgery, a knee replacement or hip replacement. So the wait and see situation doesn't necessarily benefit people.
I knew they didn't like my steps.
We call these the stairs of death. I knew that we were one fall away from her whole life changing. And when she said, I want to stay in my home, then the only way that that could happen is for us to be proactive in this moment.
Hello, hello. Yes. Hey. We got all the color on.
The Scales family decided not to wait. They hired a company to modify Mary Ann's home so she can safely age in place.
He's going to put them in the studs, and then your countertop will float on top. And they're
I'm established out here. My house is paid for. I've got church friends and
family.
And my family all the way around.
I had shining examples from watching my mom and her siblings deal with my grandparents. I knew what this could look like. And I knew that you could honor your parents' wishes as long as it was safe to do that and they could get the care that they needed and be respectful and help them maintain dignity.
Fewer and fewer families have the social network and lifestyles to manage that kind of care.
Historically, women have been the caregivers of the family. When World War II happened, the workforce changed, and women have the opportunity to go out into the workforce, spend time building their own careers, which may take away from the time that they are able to dedicate towards caring for their family or their aging parents or their husband's aging parents.
And aging adults are living longer, which often means they need care for a longer period, all at a time when the family unit has changed.
We're talking fewer children, fewer caregivers, higher rates of divorce, multiple marriages. So that kind of creates what I call these hybrid family units. And so how all that will play out with the caregiving, and we've got decreased children, so decreased caregivers, and we're more geographically dispersed now.
These are kind of like my Bible when it comes to my parents. If, I got a call to say, I had to go home, I could literally walk out the door right now, get on a plane and go home. I have a full set of clothes there. I probably need to grab my backpack and computer.
Mondrivia James could be the poster child for the challenges of modern family caregiving. She works in Nashville, but is the sole caregiver for her parents in North Carolina.
I carry their power of attorneys. I carry their insurance policies. I even have my mom's birth certificate, Social Security card.
James has explored relocating her parents to Nashville.
I think that would take some of the worry off of me. My dad flat out told me that he would never move here because that would kill him faster. I am a planner, but this is just so overwhelming. I feel like I just deal with it when it happens.
Part of the American mythos of aging is that at some point you become dependent. And at that point, you have a single caregiver who gives up everything and gives to you constantly, day after day, year after year. That is madness. Human beings were not meant to be that way. And if you look back through history and around the world, caregiving has always been a distributive function, shared within a kinship group or a village or a tribe, not isolated on one individual for years on end.
Today, about half of all family caregivers say they are the only person providing care for the older adult. 4 out of 10 caregivers of persons not in nursing homes say they sometimes pay others to help. James has tried hiring periodic help for her parents, but ideally, she'd like for them to be in an assisted living facility.
Financially, they could not do. I could do one of them, but to be able to put them both, it's bananas. It was like $4,000, and I'm like, whoa.
Here's what's behind the sticker shock. In Tennessee, a private room in an assisted living facility averages $3,400 a month. A similar room in a nursing home averages $6,000 a month. And in Tennessee, costs are increasing faster than national levels, according to a recent study by Genworth Financial.
I think I'll fix some iced tea.
All right. Jim and Mary Tallman have faced many aspects of aging without fear and hesitation. They downsized to a condo in a retirement community. They even have plans for end of life.
Funerals paid for, grave lot paid for, tombstone up with the first dates and even the dash.
But this Franklin, Tennessee couple is stumped when it comes to preparing for what happens before then, their long-term care. And their needs are now more complicated.
How long has it been since that day I called you and told you I didn't know how to come home? How many?
It's been a couple of years.
Couple of years?
Yeah.
Boy, that was scary.
Yes.
2 years ago, Mary was diagnosed with dementia.
Hardly a day goes by that I don't think about it. Don't know what it's going to be, but with our children so far removed, it's hard to, they can't help out.
Many people mistakenly believe that health insurance or Medicare will cover long-term services. Fewer than 10% of Americans are saving and planning specifically for long-term care, according to the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. But at least 70% of people over 65 will need long-term care at some point.
The fear of helplessness, the fear of dependency is greater than the fear of death. People can sit down and sign the papers for the life insurance knowing, I understand this. But doing that when the prospect in your mind is, I may become incapacitated and may need to be taken care of round the clock, that's a harder sell.
No one knows how they're going to age. Are they going to be just super healthy until their 90s? Or are they going to have a stroke at 65 and need care from that point on? And we just don't have that crystal ball to tell us that.
No, that's my college.
Oh, that's college.
Yeah, that's when we were at OBU.
Yeah. Right now, my first preference, of course, is to have Jim care for me. But I would not want to be to the point where all his life is caring for me. If it comes to that, I would rather go to a place they'll care for me where he can come and visit me.
On the other hand, that's what, for better or for worse, means, is that you care when the worst comes.
The Tallmans are now forced to think about long-term care needs. Jim has hired a cleaning service to help around the house. But if he cares for Mary at home, he may need to pay for a lot more help.
I'm very disappointed in the state of Tennessee that they do not provide better home care. Now, they've made some progress in recent years, but I would like very much to see better home care for us.
Tennessee ranks 48th when it comes to long-term services and support, according to a nationwide scorecard by AARP. The state's northern neighbor, Kentucky, is at the bottom.
What we have in Tennessee is a long-term services and support system that I would say very adequately meets the need of the very affluent, but you need to be able to afford to purchase that level of long-term services and supports that's coordinated. And then at the other end of the spectrum are the lowest income folks who qualify for Medicaid teen care. So you have this large middle class that I believe and others believe are underserved.
A new state-funded program in Tennessee called Options is designed to bridge gaps in home-based long-term services, things like bathing, housekeeping, and meal preparation. Participants pay on a sliding scale based on their income. But after 3 years, the Options program is overwhelmed by demand.
We have a waiting list of 9,000 people trying to get the services, so our program doesn't have sufficient funds to take care of all those people. Other folks who are looking for those services are going to have to pay for them, and a lot of people don't have the funds to pay for them, but they need them to be able to stay at home.
Long-term care is expensive, and people tend to not think about their need for long-term care in the future and probably not have insurance or resources available to be able to meet those needs when the time comes. So they exhaust their personal resources and then they qualify for Medicaid, and Medicaid really does become the primary payer for those services in the future. We really have to get very smart about thinking about how we deliver those services as cost effectively as possible so that we're as well positioned as we can be to meet the needs of an aging population.
If you don't have insurance and you don't have money, you're out of luck.
Vicki Burney is primary caregiver for someone she is not related to by blood. Tommy Lee is her aunt by marriage, a widow with no children. When Lee's health declined, sending her to the hospital, then nursing home, Burney tumbled into a pit of financial, legal, and personal health challenges.
This is a bill I received from a nursing home for $23,000 some odd dollars. This one is the first hearing with their decision denying her. Her income is less than $600 a month, so you automatically think you're going to qualify for some government assistance just just based on her income. But that's not true.
Lee was denied TennCare nursing home coverage not because of income, but because she did not meet medical criteria under Choices, the TennCare program that covers long-term services. As nursing home bills for Tommy Lee pile up, her niece is paying a high personal cost.
I get anxiety attacks and all new stuff that I'm not used to. My doctor tells me, he said, you know, you gotta calm down, it's just your nerves. You gotta calm down, you gotta take care of you. But then when you see the things that she's going through, that she doesn't know she's going through, that you're trying to take care of, it takes a toll on you.
That issue has become a major problem. Health problems, missing work, it's got an economic consequence to it. You know, they're taking care of their own kids at home. They've got a whole family situation they're dealing with. They're working, and now they've got aging parents or an aging relative that they're trying to take care of, and they're trying to do way too many things all at the same time.
When caregivers decide they need help and they finally reach out to someone for some help, they're overwhelmed. They're at the end of their rope. They may have lost their job because of caregiving issues. They may have lost friendships because of caregiving issues. They may have lost their relationships with their siblings because of caregiving issues. And they don't know where else to turn.
According to the National Alliance for Caregiving, rates of stress, anxiety, and depression are much higher for caregivers than national averages. So are rates of high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and obesity. Their financial health also suffers, with caregivers spending more than $5,500 a year out of pocket, often dipping into their own savings. TennCare eventually reversed its decision in the case of Tommy Lee. While Bernie is relieved, the experience has her wary about her own future.
I guess that's why it's part of my fight, because, you know, in a few years, I'm going to be a senior citizen myself. So it's not right the way we treat our elderly. I mean, it's not.
Sometimes the one that's working with the other,
right,
together, they don't seem to work well.
Right.
You know?
One of the challenges that we're having is that the regulations and the reimbursement aren't keeping up with each other.
Gretchen Gagan is a certified geriatric care manager whose job is to help families navigate the complex and often disconnected world of long-term care services.
Right now, the healthcare system is very siloed. A lot of that has to do with the reimbursement. So the certain part of Medicare pays for what you get in the hospital, and then another part of Medicare covers you when you go to skilled rehab. And then another part of Medicare covers when you go home and you have home health care. And so a geriatric care manager can come in as the safety net and make sure the information and the outcomes follow the person through all of those different settings.
Y'all keep this balloon in the air for 2 minutes. The nurse is gonna buy your lunch tomorrow.
Most of the social paradigm is I have to save up for a nursing home, and that's not the case anymore.
Adult daycare is an option that helps some families bridge the gaps in long-term care services. Centennial Adult Daycare in Nashville accepts adults of all ages.
The knowledge of having another option other than a nursing home, a hospital, or in-home care, that's the aha moment, and that's usually the reaction.
I'm trying to think of a topic that starts with the letter J.
Linda Wojciechowski has come here almost daily since 2001 after surviving a stroke.
I like the fact that we change activities every hour, and that staff is here so nice to me, and they're very competent, they're well trained, and I like the food, and I like everybody here, and I like the fact that I get to go home every night.
Linda's husband of 43 years is her primary caregiver.
I know I can leave her and she'll be safe. She'll be taken care of real well, and pick her up, go home, we do our thing then.
And I've been in 3 nursing homes, and I much prefer going home.
90% of adults over age 65 say they want to stay in their residence as long as possible, according to AARP. But it will take more than adding services to the marketplace.
The generation behind the baby boomers is not as large. There are not going to be as many people paying into Social Security and Medicare to pay for all the baby boomers' care, nor to be physically available to provide care for them.
I think we'd be short-sighted to believe that current resources will meet the demands of an aging population. As more and more people need services, it will require more funding to be able to meet those needs.
There isn't enough money. That's just a matter of arithmetic, not politics. I do believe we have everything we need to ensure that this population gets cared for as long as we tap into what is called social capital, which are those informal, voluntary relationships and partnerships where we make life better for the others around us. We're all in this together, and we're all working to both give and receive.
Come on, Mama, dance with me. This has been a long road to get here, but I actually have to say it's been a good one, because it has made me a better man. It's made me more apologetic and sympathetic to my sister. It's made me realize how strong a woman she is. Because of my mama, our mama.
You've heard the proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a village to put resources around folks as they're aging, and especially when they have physical challenges.
I learned that for myself, I need to be better prepared. I have all my nieces and nephews, and I'm always reinforcing, you know, when Tita gets old, are you gonna take care of her? You know, and they're like, yes.
As you can see, caregiving has no surefire roadmap. It's a balancing act that requires finding pieces of the puzzle and putting them together in a way that fits the needs of your family. But family and friends can no longer be the main resource for long-term care as aging baby boomers swell the ranks of those needing it. There must be new approaches to delivering and financing care, and all of us have a stake in the conversation. To learn more about caregiving resources, policy changes, and trends, visit our website at wnpt.org/agingmatters.
Major funding for NPT Report's Aging Matters is provided by Cigna Health Spring, lead sponsor of NPT Report's Aging Matters. The West End Home Foundation, support in the care of seniors through many organizations in Middle Tennessee. The Jeanette Travis Foundation, dedicated to improving the health and well-being of the Middle Tennessee community. Additional funding provided by members of NPT. Thank you.